thorn twist in your side. I'll wait for you. Sleight of hand and twist of fate. On a bed of nails she makes me wait. And I wait without you. With or without you. With or without you. Through the storm we reach the shore.
Everybody knows. You guessed it right away. If you're playing Name That Tune on the song to start our show, you named that tune in 2 notes. It was on this day in 1987 that U2 began a 3-week run at number 1 on the U.S. singles charts with or Without You. I just said with. You realize that, right? With the song, With or Without You. That was, believe it or not, U2's first number 1 single and the third track from their huge album, a seminal album you would call it, one of the biggest albums of all time, The Joshua Tree from U2 back in 1987. With or Without You goes to number 1. It is Friday, the 16th of May, 2025. That would make it 38 years after U2 took that song to number 1 back in 87. Welcome to the show. It's sunny. We're headed into a long weekend, and gosh darn it, do we have things to do on this show today, not the least of which will be giving away early bird prizes in the Farwell for Hire 50/50. But more on that in just a moment. Got to start with the way yesterday ended, which was, I'll tell you what, after the show, got real busy getting oot and a boot and getting support for our Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign. First from my old friend I haven't heard from in a long time, and he just reached out randomly after listening to the show last week and hearing us talk about Farwell for Hire. So thank you to my friend Robin Ramsamy from Robin's Goldsmithing, who just called up and said, listen, I want to help. I'm going to make a donation to your online auction, which we have just launched for Farwell for Hire. And I want to just make a $500 donation. Just like that from Robin Ramsamy at Robin's Goldsmithing. Beautiful way to spend an afternoon after the show. And then last night, my friends Chris and Mike from KW Custom Exteriors. It has been more years now than I can count, really, that they've been involved in Farwell for Hire. And over the years, we've done a variety of different things, including getting me out on a job site and doing some work with them, to just showing up at their shop and collecting a check. And the guys really enjoy their golf. You know me. It's probably not my favorite game to play, but they organized, Chris and Mike from KW Custom Exteriors, organized for us an indoor golf tournament at Golf Play in Waterloo last night. It's a really great way to spend an evening. There's music. You got TVs so you can watch some NHL. You're hanging out, and it's really easy to socialize in a golf tournament that's indoors because you can just go from bay to bay. You don't have to randomly encounter people somewhere along the course or in the clubhouse or anything like that. Obviously, it's never going to get rained out. So I met a ton of great people who came together and helped us raise a few $1,000s more for Farwell for Hire. So thanks to everybody and to all of our tradespeople who, of course, were very well represented at last night's indoor golf tournament at Golf Play in Waterloo. A shout out to you for the work that you do in our community and your interest in giving back, because that was a great night, and it was all thanks to Chris and Mike at KW Custom Exteriors. Thank you for supporting Farwell for Hire for cystic fibrosis research. Great time. Uh-oh, I made a mistake there. I'm so sorry. I got to do this with my computer, and now I can do this. That is how we begin the Farwell Show 5 for this Friday morning. Number 1 The spreading measles outbreak has closed a second Kitchener high school after Eastwood Collegiate was closed yesterday over concerns of measles exposure. St. Mary's High School is now closed today. Eastwood also remains closed for a second consecutive day. In both cases, the potential exposure to the virus was around last Wednesday and Thursday. Public health officials are working to confirm vaccination records. Number 2, the Wilmot Civic Action Network says the fight for farmland is not over. The community group in Wilmot Township has raised thousands of dollars for a legal challenge at the Ontario Land Tribunal, and group member John Jordan tells today's Waterloo Region Record that the people of Waterloo Region are not in favor of the Land Assembly and that the Assembly is in the wrong place. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Summer gas prices traditionally settle into place this long weekend. Petroleum analyst Roger McKnight says the effects of the elimination of the federal consumer carbon tax seem to be holding, as pump prices remain about 15 cents per litre lower than they were before the change. Number 4, the London Knights are Ontario Hockey League champions for a second straight year. The Knights knocking off the Oshawa Generals last night 5-2, taking the championship series in 5 games. London eliminated Owen Sound, Erie, Kitchener, and Oshawa en route to the title, losing just 1 game along the way. The Knights have now won 6 OHL titles, twice doing it in back-to-back years. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, it is early bird day in the Farwell for Hire 50/50. This morning at 11, we are giving away a Kitchener Rangers VIP experience, and at noon, we are giving away $1,500 in cash from the Better Business Bureau. You can't win, though, if you don't play. So make sure you get your tickets. Packages start at just $10, and you can get those tickets at cf5050.ca. cf5050.ca. The jackpot is currently worth more than $76,700. Yes, I just refreshed. $76,700. That means your take-home prize more than $38,000. You can win that, and one of the early bird prizes. We'll give away the first of them this morning at 11. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Friday morning. Your morning wake-up call coming up. I see Jim on the line already. He's got something to say. I got a thing or two to say about this measles outbreak, too. It's coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
When I was young, it seemed that life was so wonderful. A miracle, oh, it was beautiful, magical. And all the birds in the trees, well, they'd be singing so happily. Oh, joyfully, oh, playfully, watching me. But then they sent me away to teach me how to be sensible, logical, oh, responsible, practical. And then they showed me a world where I could be so dependable.
I know what you're thinking.
Clinical.
You're thinking, hang on a second. That's not Roger Hodgson and Company. That is not Supertramp. No, it's not. It is the logical song, but it's the cover done by the Greystones by request of George on this All Request Friday here on the program. That's right. Fridays don't just mean Free Phones Friday and the Friday 4 Roundtable and today, Early Bird Prize Day in the Farwell for Hire 50/50 raffle. It's also an All Request Friday. So if there's a song you want to hear a bit of, send me an email, mike@570news.com, or when you call in to talk about the issues that we talk about, or you just want to talk to Jen, who is our board operator today, just do that and let her know the song you would like to hear a bit of. The logical song by the Greystones by request on this All Request Friday. Our phone line's open the minute we start the show every day, 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Let's get to the phones right now. Jim is with us. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, Farwell, it's Jim Bag.
Jim Bag from west of Waterloo region, Woodstock-ish, London Knights fan extraordinaire. Good morning.
Back to back, baby.
Yeah.
Back.
Settle down, Jim Bag.
I'm just calling to give you a little dig, but I got another couple things that I want to talk to you about.
Sure.
I enjoy your post game with Fixter. You do a fantastic job.
Appreciate that.
And I'm always listening to him. I miss him.
I miss him too. Yeah, I saw him the other night at an event we were both at. But we're ready to get back in the booth already.
I'm ready for you too.
I'm sure you are, because you've got back-to-back champs with the London Knights.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't call just to gloat, buddy.
Okay.
I'm calling to tell you that I know we are OHL hockey team foes, but I'm calling to tell you, Mike, that I've got my 50-50 tickets already.
Attaboy, Jim.
$50. And today's payday, Mike, I know what it's like to lose a sister, so I'm going to invest $100 in your Farwell for Hire campaign.
Jimmy, you're a good man, buddy. You're a good man. Thank you.
What you're doing is commendable, Mike. And like I said, I know what it's like to lose a sister. I didn't lose a sister to CF, but I lost my sister 2 years ago, and I miss her dearly.
You know what, Jim? It's been, my gosh, as I look at the calendar, 31 years for me since I lost my sisters, and I feel the same. I still miss them every day.
They always say time heals the heart. I'm calling that a lie.
Yeah, I'm with you. Buddy. I think we just learn how to live with that little hole that's left behind.
Exactly.
For sure.
Have a good show, Mike. I'll be listening off and on today. I usually listen while I'm at work, and also have a good long weekend.
Thanks, buddy. You too. Appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Jim. There you go. London Knights fan, but he likes our Kitchener Rangers coverage. Jim and I interact a lot over email, and he does every once in a while call our post-game show, Rangers Talk. Great to hear from him this morning. Jim reminds me that somebody else said to me recently, you should remind folks what this Farwell for Hire thing is all about. So let me take this opportunity to remind you, yes, it is about raising money for research into a cure for cystic fibrosis, which I am very passionate about because two of my sisters, born with cystic fibrosis, it is a genetic disease. There is still no cure, so it's the most common fatal genetic disease affecting Canadian children, and we're still looking for that cure. And because I watched what my sisters had to go through living with this disease, and then sadly and tragically, I watched them die far too young. My sister Luann was 24 when she passed away. My sister Sherry just 18 when she lost her fight with cystic fibrosis. And so to this day, in their honor and memory, we do the Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign every May, because May is Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month. So it made sense. Why not do it in the month of May? And here we are. And now part of our fundraising is that 50-50 raffle. So you can help us help families who are living with cystic fibrosis today have a different end to the story. That's what this is all about. It comes from a place of love for me and my family, and we so very much appreciate the big warm hug you've given us over all of these years, helping us raise all this money. This year, our goal is $150,000 this month in the Farwell for Hire campaign, because if we can make that $150,000, we will have reached $1.5 million in the life of the campaign. So it's the drive for 1.5 in Farwell for Hire this year in memory and in legacy of my sisters who died from cystic fibrosis. You can get it on the 50-50 right now at cf5050.ca. Be like my buddy Jim Bag, okay? This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Switch
little bit of Loverboy and loving every minute of it by request for Grant on this All Request Friday here on the program. Let me tell you something I'm not really loving every minute of, and that is the current state in public health. I feel like I have stepped into a time machine and gone back about 5 years to mid-May 2020 when we were counting cases of this novel coronavirus, remember, called COVID-19? And we counted cases, and cases continued to mount, and slowly but surely things began to shut down all across the economy, including our schools here in Ontario. Ontario had some of the longest school closures anywhere in the world. And here we are today when a case of the measles turns up in a high school, and boom, bada bing, bada boom, we shut down the ding-dang school. Eastwood Collegiate now closed for a second day. St. Mary's High School closed as public health tries to track down vaccination records. First and foremost, why don't we have these things sorted before school begins? Hello, McFly. Hello. And now, though, for one case, we're closing down schools. The ripple effect of that is significant. I know we're at high schools here, so, you know, maybe parents don't have to rearrange daycare or anything like that, but there are implications far beyond the loss of a school day. We got a 5-day weekend for kids and staff at Eastwood for one case, just because this is a disease we had eradicated thanks to vaccination. And now, because the entire population is not vaccinated, we're closing down schools for one case, even though the majority of us have herd immunity. Make it make sense to me. Please, could you? This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
We're dealing, first off, with an environment where tariffs have impacted our community. This budget meets the moment. It provides $30 billion of supports and putting in place even more supports for workers and businesses as we get through this situation, and that we build a long-term strong economy that'll be the most competitive in the G7.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
And that, of course, is Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy after delivering yesterday's provincial budget. It's a budget, says Minister Bethlenfalvy, that meets the moment. Catherine Fife is the NDP MPP who represents Waterloo and has now for more than a decade, joins us to talk about it, the view from the official opposition. And Catherine, why don't we start with what we just heard from Finance Minister Bethlenfalvy? He says this budget meets the moment. Does it meet the moment for you?
Well, I mean, I have to say, we're living in unprecedented times. And I think that the expectations of this budget were very high, Mike, right? There's a lot of fear out there. We have record high unemployment in Ontario right now. And the meeting the moment piece is a hard thing to define because we're dealing with Donald Trump. But on the whole, though, I mean, there are a number of measures in the budget that, are focused on a tariff response. We don't have enough information, particularly about the Protecting Ontario account, which is a fund of up to $5 billion. For us as New Democrats, we were looking for very targeted strategic investments, specifically around the tariff vulnerable sector. And obviously auto is one of those key issues. And right now in Windsor, for instance, we have workers standing in front of trucks that are removing equipment and taking it down to the state. So we were looking for specific funding and targeted funding to ensure that the auto sector can be stabilized, has some certainty going forward, and knows that the government, understands that full pipeline of job creation around auto. So that's a wait and see on the Protecting Ontario account. On the whole, though, I mean, if you're looking at a way to strengthen and protect your economy as a province, investing in post-secondary education and ensuring that, you can commercialize research from those institutions and create those good local jobs and talent and keep those folks here in Ontario. Seeing a $1.2 billion reduction in post-secondary education was a shock for us, quite honestly. I mean, who does that in 2025?
Can you give us a sense of what it's like trying to navigate these uncharted waters when it comes to our relationship with that neighbor to the south? I mean, there seems to be so much uncertainty around tariffs, whether they're on, whether they're off, what happens this week, what happens last week, et cetera. As an MPP, what's it like navigating this?
Yeah, so we, and you'll know that I chair the Advisory Council on Tariff Response and Economic Security. So we are, this is a group of MPPs that are, trying to reach out to stakeholders to find good local solutions so that we can, as I said, stabilize, but also, use the uncertainty of Donald Trump as an opportunity. For instance, our film and creative economy. We do a lot of amazing things in Ontario. We should be really focused on supporting that industry, creating those good local jobs, and holding really Donald Trump to account by saying, you know what, we're going to work around you because it is chaos. I mean, he is a chaotic leader who really wants our jobs to go back down to the States. And so in the face of dealing with that uncertainty, we should be really focused on, strategic investment in certain sectors. For instance, agriculture. This is our strength as a province. Some other provinces have looked towards exporting some of their agricultural, knowledge and that pipeline. And, that's what we can do. Like we can still lead from a position of strength in agriculture, in film. We met with our forestry sector. They're looking for stability. And this budget, unfortunately, doesn't really recognize that the storm is already here. And so, I mean, they even have a contingency fund of $3 billion for that rainy day. When we're looking at record high unemployment in Ontario, that rainy day is here, right?
You mentioned earlier the cut to funding for post-secondary, and our Queen's Park Bureau Chief Richard Southern asked Minister Bethlyn Falvey yesterday about a tax cut and why there wasn't a tax cut for Ontarians in this budget. Was there room for one, do you believe?
Well, I mean, we, as New Democrats, we actually favor tax credits because they're more accountable, right? I mean, you ask the sector to do something and then they get the tax credit. And this is something that we really want to see across the board around accountability on funding. I mean, you saw this week, and I think you covered it, Mike, Honda is looking now to delay expansion of the EV pipeline by 2 more years, if they're going to do that. So every time government, provides a subsidy or provides a tax credit, or, many people were looking for tax cuts in this budget, there has to be some strings attached for, what taxpayers are getting in return. So that return on investment is something that we've been trying to hold the government to. But there's key sectors. I mean, education is a cornerstone in this community for sure. 2 universities and a college. They are hurting. They've seen the international student, policy change has negatively impacted them, of course. And housing starts are down as well. And so we were looking for a recognition of what these sectors deliver back to the province of Ontario so that we can strengthen and stabilize our economy. And you don't do that when you do a $1.2 billion reduction in post-secondary. You don't do that when you just hold the line on healthcare spending and not recognizing inflationary costs, because that essentially is a cut. And on housing, which you can't move forward when housing starts are down almost 25,000 units, right? So these are, we want the government to really feel and hear what people are saying. And so that's what we're trying to do with our advisory council, right? It's a
couple of things jump out at me there, Catherine, and a little bit of a tangent, but hits so close to home for us when you talk about the Honda in Alliston, which is a story we have covered this week, and then return on investment. I think the province is hoping there's a return on the investment in land now almost entirely assembled in Wilmot Township, 550 acres. That qualifies as an industrial megasite. We don't know who might be a potential user of that land down the road, but the idea is that this land will provide a return on investment through job creation. How do you feel about where we're at on the assembly?
Well, wouldn't it be nice to know what that's going to be? I mean, also, if you when you assess what Honda shared with us this week, is that their EV sales are down, right? So, just because, 2 or 3 years ago things were moving in that direction, there's clearly been an adjustment, and this is caused in many ways because of the geopolitical unease that Donald Trump has done with his tariff tantrums, I like to say. So we don't know what the return on investment is going to be for that land assembly. But if you're gambling right now on EV, that market has significantly cooled, and this is a fact, right? So I mean, it's the fact that we are losing that prime agricultural land for an unknown industrial project where there's no business case and no one has come to the taxpayers to say this is what the infrastructure costs are going to be to you, so that we don't know if that ROI is there. People are asking, us to trust them at both the provincial and the regional level. And I think that, at least at the provincial level, I can say for sure that trust has been broken time and time again. So I still see the Wilmot Land Assembly as a huge gamble, and I would like to see the numbers around who's done their fiscal due diligence and who has not.
Catherine, as always, we appreciate your time on the show. Thank you very much for being here today.
As always. Thanks, Mike. Happy Friday.
Catherine Fife, MPP for Waterloo and member of Ontario's official opposition, the Ontario NDP, her reaction and response to the provincial budget tabled yesterday. What do you make of the budget tabled yesterday? First thing that stood out to me, of course, is that there will not be a balanced budget and the deficit will balloon to nearly $15 billion. I like to emphasize the with a B part of that, $15 billion. There is a path to balance, though, which is more than we can say for federal budgets of late. The path to balance in 2027, 2028. Now, of course, we've heard these paths to balance before, and you put them off down the road because, then down the road comes and something else has happened to prevent you from getting back to balance on the books. Look, there are reasonable expectations that by the time the provincial government is headed to the polls again and looking for perhaps another term, that there could be a balanced budget. You know me, I like a balanced budget. I don't know why it's so much to ask from governments these days, but that's my perspective. Catherine Fife identifies cuts to spending on post-secondary as a concern, and the gamble that is the Wilmot Land Assembly when we consider all of the other things that are impacting the electric vehicle industry, for example. Your thoughts always welcome on the program. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
We were looking for a recognition of what these sectors deliver back to the province of Ontario so that we can strengthen and stabilize our economy. And you don't do that when you do a $1.2 billion reduction. We want the government to really feel and hear what people are saying. And so that's what we're trying to do with our advisory council.
Catherine Fife is the MPP who represents Waterloo and joins us this morning for some reaction to the budget. She had alluded to the gamble that she believed it was when we consider Honda, the automaker's plans in Alliston being put on pause when it comes to the electric vehicle industry and Honda's place in it. You'll remember, of course, there were ambitious plans to expand get into that next generation of automaking and create some 1,000 jobs with that expansion in Alliston, Ontario. And billions of dollars in both provincial and federal money was put up for that expansion that is now on pause for at least 2 years. You know, of course, that the automaker is going to be watching the market and determining what its next steps are. But that brings to bear the conversation here in the region around the Wilmot Land Assembly. Long has been rumored, and I mean, nothing's been substantiated, but the rumors are so loud, and basically everyone you talk to says the same thing, that the industrial megasite being assembled in Wilmot Township would be for an expansion similar to Honda's in Alliston for Toyota right here in the region. The electric vehicle opportunities that exist on an industrial megasite, the likes of which we're assembling in Wilmot Township. If Honda's pausing, what does that mean for any future for Toyota? And what might become of these 550 acres and counting in Wilmot Township? If it's not going to be for the electric vehicle industry, what might it be for? When we talked to Chair Karen Redmond yesterday, she still says there is no buyer identified for those lands, but clearly there is a belief that we have been left behind by not having such a site, and that there will be a willing buyer for it to develop industry and create jobs in this community. There's no question that we're going to need good, well-paying jobs for the 1 million people living here in the future. Full stop. There's no arguing that. Whether or not this is the right place for an industrial megasite remains open to some debate. But Chair Redmond, in our conversation yesterday, also alluded to, she didn't use directly the words silent majority, but she certainly alluded to the idea that quietly people are behind the assembly of these lands to create future employment. And I'm kind of struggling a little bit because the Wilmot Civic Action Network and the Fight for Farmland folks were out late last night with a media release. I received it just before 11 p.m. And look, I'm not the one in Wilmot directly impacted, obviously, but it's starting to sound more and more like a not in my backyard sort of idea here, because throughout this process, we've been hearing it's all about the farmland. It's all about the farmland. You can't expropriate, threaten expropriation, take land away from people, which is it's an icky thing. I totally get it. And I don't love that it has happened in the past for the public good or not, and that it was threatened in this case. But in the end, we have found a suitable agreement with these landowners. So a price was found that the landowners could live with. And now the messaging from the Wilmot Civic Action Network and the Fight for Farmland folks has changed. It basically says, you know, we're not against the creation of sites for employment, but it's just not here. It shouldn't be here. So again, to me, it's starting to sound a little bit like the whole thing was just a not in my backyard argument. You can create these lands for future industry, but you just can't do it here. Huh? The due diligence is underway, and despite the language and the rhetoric from the Wilmot Civic Action Network in this morning's Waterloo Region Record that this fight isn't over, it's a real uphill battle for the folks in Wilmot at this point, at least from where I'm sitting. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
A singer in a smoky room, a smell of wine and cheap perfume. For a smile they can share the night. It goes on and on and on and on. Strangers waiting up and down the boulevard. Their shadows searching in the night.
buddy Rob from Conestoga Electric wanted to hear this song on our All Request Friday. To his fellow Leaf fans, Don't Stop Believin', Journey, by request from Rob at Conestoga Electric on your All Request Friday here on the program this morning. Do you believe in two-tier health in Ontario? Some suggestions in a new report hint that we are headed that way, or perhaps we've already arrived. We'll talk about the findings in the report coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Heaven is closer now today. The sound is in my ears. I can't believe the things you say. They echo what I feel, twisting the bones until they snap. I scream but no one knows. You say I'm familiar, cold to touch, and then you turn and go. Feels like heaven.
Fridays on our show are All Request Fridays, and that is Fiction Factory and Feels Like Heaven for Terry on this Friday morning here on the show. Fridays also mean our Friday 4 Roundtable and Free Phones Friday. That's all getting underway at 11, the Roundtable until noon. Free phones after that. We're going to award some Farwell for Hire 50/50 early bird prizes today. Oh my goodness gracious, the jackpot up over $77,000. You can get your tickets right now at cf5050.ca. Speaking of money, how about the more than $9 billion that the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives says has been spent in Ontario hospitals on outside agencies, contract workers, more than $9 billion over the past 10 years. About $32 million of that spent in hospitals here in the Waterloo region and Wellington areas. To talk more about the report, Andrew Longhurst is a political economist at Simon Fraser University and a research associate with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Andrew, let's start with the information in the report itself. How did you gather this data?
Yeah, so the report draws on data from the Canadian Institute for Health Information, so looking at purchased expenses, so hospitals paying private third parties for services delivered in hospitals. And in addition to that, looked at the individual financial documents of Ontario hospitals to be able to understand the impact of the financial situation and the deficits facing nearly half of Ontario hospitals in the last fiscal year.
So of this $9.2 billion province-wide, about $32 billion was spent in the Waterloo-Wellington region in our hospitals. Where is this money being spent?
So it's in a number of different areas. So the way that private agencies have grown over the last decade and more is this used to be a phenomenon just primarily around nurses and registered nurses. And what we've seen is private agency staff has grown to supply allied health professionals in labs, respiratory therapists, support staff, other administrative staff. It's become a form of contract labor in hospitals. And so the data itself look at all the different areas within hospitals, including emergency departments, inpatient nursing. The bulk of the use of private agency staff is in those areas that might be considered direct clinical. But we also see the increasing use of these staffing agencies in other areas that support the operations of hospitals. And that's, I think, a concern in terms of that growing or outpacing of that growth compared to hospital-employed staff.
What is the impact of this, Andrew, on patient care?
Well, we know from the literature that the conditions of work are the conditions of care. And what I mean by that is long-term relationships between staff themselves as well as staff and patients is really a key predictor of care quality outcomes in terms of supporting patients, understanding their needs, and being able to support them appropriately and identify when interventions and other interventions are necessary and changes in health status. So one of the key findings over the last probably 2 decades of research that we've seen is the importance of stability in the workforce and continuity. And so the concern with the growth of contract labor and private staffing agencies is that it really fractures that continuity and that stability, and that's a concern for patient care.
Are we, in some ways, creating 2 tiers of healthcare worker then in the province? Those who are funded through hospitals and the public system, and those who are contracted out through these private agencies?
Yes, we are. And I think that's the concern, and something that I hope the government takes seriously is that this is deeply undermining of morale in hospitals, and very troubling when you're working side by side with people that are making 2-3 times more than you. And also the fact that we continue to see a devaluing of hospital staff, and not just nurses, but across the board in terms of those that are working, doing important work. But that sort of continuity that I talked about is broken when we have staffing models that are really built upon fracturing that team and those relationships. So I think it is a concern for sure.
Is the argument then, Andrew, that we should have invested this $9.2 billion into the healthcare system overall, as opposed to obviously spending it on these outside contractors?
Absolutely. I think hopefully there's an opportunity here to reflect on the need to be more cost effective with dollars by cutting out these middlemen, these contractors and agencies who are making a profit off of public dollars, and look to a more cost-effective approach, which means bringing those staff in-house. And we know that a lot of hospital administrators are looking to really wean their hospitals off of private agency staff, and that's fantastic. But what we need to see is a commitment from the provincial government to phase out and ultimately ban for-profit staffing agencies within hospitals over the next 3 years, as Quebec is looking to do by next year.
How did we get here? Is there any indication as to why these staffing agencies became so relied upon in Ontario?
Well, I think there's a number of factors. First and foremost, we've seen the fact that Ontario hospital spending has not kept pace. We saw over 7 of the last decade in the study period, we saw real per capita spending cuts. And so what that means is that, hospital funding levels are not keeping pace with our ability to meet the needs of a growing and aging population. So when the provincial government is not providing the necessary investments in public hospitals, and it's constraining the ability of hospitals themselves to negotiate fair wages and better working conditions, this has really been a boon to private for-profit staffing agencies and contracted service providers. So that sort of broader underinvestment or provincial austerity has really come to the benefit of growing this for-profit staffing model. And more specifically, in 2019, the government passed Bill 124, which was public sector wage suppression legislation, and it was ultimately repealed. It was found to be unconstitutional. But the legacy of that is it has been a devaluing of the hospital workforce, the employed workforce. And so within that context, we've seen a 331% increase in hospital vacancies. So all of this has contributed. And then you layer on the pandemic, and just the increasing demands on healthcare. And it becomes a very challenging environment to recruit and retain staff.
Very interesting report. And Andrew, I appreciate you making time for our show today. Thank you very much for being here.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Andrew Longhurst is a political economist with Simon Fraser University and a research associate with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. He's also the lead author in the report that finds $31.9 million. Let's just round it up. $32 million on for-profit staffing agencies spent by hospitals in Waterloo Region and Wellington in 2022-23. That's a 288% increase over 10 years. Imagine if you are working side by each with a nurse in that hospital who's making double or triple what you are making. That cannot do wonders for morale, certainly from where I'm sitting. Is there room for some private enterprise in our public healthcare system? Many might say yes, but certainly a situation like this is one that needs to be addressed. I couldn't imagine doing the same job alongside somebody on my shift when they are making double to triple what I am making on that shift. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Hopefully there's an opportunity here to reflect on the need to be more cost effective with dollars by cutting out these middlemen, these contractors and agencies who are making a profit off of public dollars, and look to a more cost effective approach, which means bringing those staff in-house. But what we need to see is a commitment from the provincial government to phase out and ultimately ban for-profit.
Andrew Longhurst is with Simon Fraser University and the author of a report that looks into what hospitals are spending on for-profit staffing agencies. More than $9 billion over 10 years. And here in the region of Waterloo, as well as neighboring Wellington, about $32 million in 2022-2023 spent on for-profit staffing agencies. It should be noted that Ontario's Ministry of Health says that the report from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, inaccurately groups agency staffing costs with a broad range of purchased services and is, as such, blatantly misleading the public. It should be noted, too, that in the release of this report and the tour that has accompanied it, the Canadian Union of Public Employees is behind the tour and then the promotion of this report. Obviously, the Canadian Union of Public Employees has a vested interest in ensuring certain levels of staffing in our hospitals, right? Look, a couple of things come to mind. First of all, I do believe, and don't hate me for this, but I do believe there is room for some private care within our overall public system. Some. The other thing that comes to mind in all of this is that there is absolutely need for some reform in our public healthcare system. We can't continue just saying we're underfunded and we need more money, because you can't just keep throwing money at it. I think at some point you have to look at the system itself and, dare I say, break it right down and rebuild it from the ground up. It struck me, a headline I read yesterday about Microsoft and some pretty significant, trust me, there's a connection here, but some significant layoffs within Microsoft, one of the largest, of course, tech software companies in the world, and the 6,000 or so, a pretty significant number of people being laid off at Microsoft. Now, they didn't give full details on it, but the majority of the positions where the layoffs were happening were in management. How many times, and so there you've got a private company, right, making moves to become more efficient, streamline its staffing to maintain competitiveness and profitability. Again, a private company, I get it, but recognized as a world leader is Microsoft in terms of what it provides and how it provides it, including value to shareholders. And that's happening in the private sector. How many times have we talked about not just healthcare, but maybe education? How many directors and VPs and superintendents and this and that do you need within one system? If we streamlined there, would there be more left over for the people on the front lines doing the work? My answer has always been yes to that question. So maybe we can see some public systems beginning to operate like a private system, a la Microsoft. Just a thought as far as that goes. Our guest from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, Andrew Longhurst, in that conversation said he'd love to see Ontario go Quebec's way in banning the practice of having these for-profit agencies support the public healthcare system. I'm okay with that because this doesn't sound like a great model right now. Couple of other things that Quebec is doing that I would love to see Ontario adopt as well. I'll let you know what they are coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. Go Quebec, go. Don't leave Canada. Bring these policies to Ontario. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Earlier this week on the show, we played some Boney M, and I said, I don't get it. And I still don't, but Ron wanted to hear Rasputin, Rasputin by Boney M on this All Request Friday here on the show. I mentioned before the break that our guest from Simon Fraser University talked about having Ontario follow Quebec's lead when it comes to banning for-profit staffing agencies from operating within the province's hospitals. I don't hate the idea. I also quite like the idea that Quebec is moving on in a couple of other areas. One is cell phone bans in schools. You know that here in Ontario, kids in kindergarten to grade 6 have to keep their phones on silent all day. Kids in grade 7 and up can only use them during breaks. I don't know how effective that is. It's got some teeth, I guess, but in Quebec, they are implementing what they call a full ban starting this September. No devices allowed during the entire school day, including breaks at Quebec schools starting in September. I think that's a great way to go. Be serious. But don't nibble around the edges. Be serious about cell phone bans. And the other thing that just began this month in Quebec, I love you for this, Quebec. I really do. Businesses in that province are now required to calculate suggested tips based on the price before tax. How many times have I brought this up when we talk about tipping, right? And you get that terminal handed to you and it gives you 15, 18, 20, 23%, whatever options. That is calculated on the after-tax price. I ain't tipping on tax. I believe in tipping, but I'm not tipping on the tax. If it's a $100 bill, in Ontario, it turns to 113 with the tax. I'm not tipping on 113. I'll tip on the 100, please and thank you. Quebec now makes this mandatory. Let's follow their lead. I love you, Quebec. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Goodbye, Jim and Jackie. Goodbye, John and May. We hate to see you leaving, bound for the USA. But if you don't believe your country should come before yourself, you can better serve your country by living somewhere else.
Oh, a little bit of Stompin' Tom. That guy tells it like it is, doesn't he? Margaret had that request on this All Request Friday here on the program. Stompin' Tom and Believe in Your Country. It is a Friday morning heading into a long weekend, no less. You got to love it. And every Friday morning at this time through the summer months, we have time for Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment Weekly. WRSE has under its umbrella the KW Titans and the Kitchener Panthers. And the Panthers have a home opener coming up on Sunday at Jack Couch Park. General Manager of the ball club, Shanif Hirani, joins the program this morning for Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment Weekly. Shanif, good morning.
Morning, Mike.
Great start to the season with a win in Toronto last week. It's got to feel pretty good to get started that way.
It does. It was nice to get the first one under our belt. Great crowd. It was a good experience for our players. We have a lot of newer, younger players, so it was good to get that first win out of the way quickly.
And, you know, those newer, younger players must have enjoyed the opportunity to be in front of a pretty enthusiastic crowd at a school day exhibition game this week at Jack Couch, too.
For sure. It was awesome. We had 1,000 kids from 3 local schools. Our players were great with them. The kids seemed to enjoy themselves, have a great time, and it was nice to get kids into the ballpark.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me of being a kid myself, Shanif, and coming over with my father and watching the Panthers play. It's the stuff of tradition in this town, more than a century of Panthers baseball. And as we move into this new season, how will we see the Kitchener Panthers kind of engaging with the community and its fans?
We have a lot of different exciting things we have planned, especially now that we have the Panthers and the Titans. We can do joint community events. So we're going to do a lot of things with minor baseball, with Kitchener minor baseball, having players come out to games, interacting with our players. And these are the guys that we want them to aspire to be. We want them to grow up through our system and eventually play for us.
You mentioned some new young players on the Panthers team, getting them acclimatized to this community, this league in intercounty baseball. How do you feel about the team that you're fielding this year?
I feel good. The guys seem to be gelling very well, getting along. They're getting to know each other better now that we're ramping things up. And I think we have talent across all levels, whether that's defensively, offensively, and our pitching staff I'm very excited about.
I've been by the ballpark recently and noticed some changes happening. There's a fresh coat of paint on the building that faces the field, and it looks like there's a new scoreboard going up too. What kinds of changes are we going to see around Jack Couch this summer?
Yeah, so the scoreboard will be up there, ready to go for opening day. That's one we're very excited about, not only for our players, but for the experience we can provide to the fans that come to the ballpark. And along with that, we're also building 2 batting cages on our home side of the field. We're putting in a brand new team store, and we are also planning to put in new seating as well. So whatever we can do to make the experience better for our fans and want them to come back to the ballpark.
The Intercounty League is one that we have seen dynasties form in over the years, Shanif. How do you think the Panthers stack up against the competition this year?
I like our chances. I think we're young and eager, and I think that's a good thing. We have a lot of players who are going to be participating in their first IBL season, so I'll be honest, there's not a lot of expectations, but we have a lot of internal expectations on how we're going to perform, and I think we'll be able to stack up with the best teams in the league.
It's a home-and-home this weekend with the Chatham-Kent Barnstormers, including your home opener on Sunday. How excited are you heading into this weekend with the home opener on Sunday afternoon?
We can't wait. We've got to see Chatham a couple times too, and it's a great start for us. We have a lot of exciting things planned for Sunday. We hope that we can get as many people out there to see the new additions we've made to the ballpark and to see our roster take the field. I know our guys take a lot of pride in playing as hard as they can for the people that come to watch. So I hope that the fans enjoy it as much as the players will.
Speaking of that anticipation, Shanif, you say, we can't wait. It makes me think that you've been waiting a few months probably for this moment, right? When it was announced that the Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment Group had formed and you and your family joining the schoolies under that umbrella. How do you feel with this moment? Like, what have the last few months been like?
It's been great. It's been a lot of new experiences for me and for our group. But with being able to build off the Titans' success and sort of translate that over into what we're able to do with the Panthers, I feel like we're in a great spot to provide a great product on the field as well as a great product off the field for fans and the experience they'll have at our games. So I've been counting down the days since this whole thing began.
What does the tradition of Panthers baseball in Kitchener mean to you?
Well, to me, it's extremely important. I grew up playing Kitchener minor baseball. I was able to play for the Panthers briefly while I was in college. So for me, it's sort of a full circle moment to be able to now be a part of running this franchise. And I know the century-long history of the Panthers and the success that this team has had. We have the second most championships in league history, great crowds, great ballpark, and our job is to bring that back and show the city of Kitchener that this is something they can be proud of.
We know that summer is here when we're starting to pay more attention to Panthers baseball. Shanif, I wish you a great season ahead and enjoy that home opener this Sunday. Thanks for being here this morning.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Shanif Hirani is the general manager of the Kitchener Panthers Baseball Club. The Panthers, along with the KW Titans, form Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment. WRSE Weekly every Friday morning at this time through the ball season. It's the Panthers and the Barnstormers on Sunday afternoon at Jack Couch Park. Let's pack the Jack. You can get tickets at kitchenerpanthers.com/tickets. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, let's go hiking together, shall we? It's good weather for hiking, and we'll do it for Hospice. That conversation coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We are headed into a long weekend. I was just talking with Shanif Hirani, the general manager of the Kitchener Panthers Baseball Club. Sunday marks the home opener for the Panthers at Jack Couch Park. What a way to spend a Sunday. And believe it or not, 2 weeks from this Sunday is June the 1st. Where did May go? I bring up June the 1st being just 2 weeks from Sunday because it is on June the 1st that we will hike for Hospice in support of Lessard and Innisfree Hospice. Kim Fielding is the fundraising assistant there and joins the show this morning. Good morning, Kim.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for making the time. June the 1st, the annual hike for Hospice. What do we need to know about the day?
Well, the first thing you should know is it's actually June the 8th.
What? It says June the 1st right here, 2025. It's right in front of me.
Normally it is the first Sunday of June, but due to some scheduling conflicts, it was moved to June 8th
Okay,
this year.
you got to get me in on the scheduling conflicts here, Kim. Come on with your coming on. Okay, so take everything back. Let's rewind the tape. 3 weeks from Sunday, June the 8th. I swear, I'm looking at it right in front of me. You got to update this thing. Okay, June the 8th. I'll just let you take over from there.
Okay, so June the 8th, we do have the hike starting at River Bluffs Park in Cambridge. We have registration going from 9:30 until 10, and then the hike itself starts at 10. It's about a 3-kilometer hike. It's a beautiful trail through the Rare Charitable Research Reserve property, so it's a nice natural trail. It's a very low intensity 3 kilometers to the end line, which is when we'll have our celebratory barbecue, and that is at the Rare Slip Barn on Blair Road there. So we will have a barbecue there, some games for the kids, and just a time to celebrate and honor our loved ones. And we'll also be announcing our top team fundraiser and our top individual fundraiser at that barbecue as well. So we have a lot of registrants already, but there's still lots of time to register either as an individual or as a team by going to our website at lessardandinnisfree.com. Registration is $25 each, and that covers the cost of the T-shirt that you'll get, a hike T-shirt, and then the barbecue as well. So that means all the donations that are coming in don't have to go towards those expenses, so we can have that go right to the hospices instead.
Okay, so just again, Kim, so we're abundantly clear and nobody pays attention to the moron host. The date for this is
June the 8th, Sunday, June 8th.
Yes, of course. Okay, and you mentioned that monies raised can go directly into the work you do and the programs and services provided at Lessard and Innisfree. Can you give us some background on that and you know what we experience at Lessard and Innisfree?
Sure. So we have the two houses under our one umbrella. So Lessard is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. Lessard House has 6 beds there, and Innisfree is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, and we have 10 beds here at Innisfree. And we walk with the community members who are facing a life-limiting illness, providing care for our residents, and then also support for the families in the final days, as well as into bereavement and grief support, that sort of thing. So we do try to care for the entire family in the ways that they need. So we have lots of special events for them and ways to try and keep it feeling as much as it would at home as a family as we can. And all of the care outside of the bedside care is fundraised for. So the government covers 48% of our expenses, and then we do community fundraising to cover the cost of the rest of the care that we provide.
So how much of that fundraising is accomplished through the annual Hike for Hospice?
This is our biggest fundraiser of the year. So our goal this year is $130,000 with the hike. So last year we did $110,000, and so we're creeping up a little bit there. But it is our biggest fundraiser of the year. So it does help quite a bit.
And what a beautiful venue you're able to enjoy there through the Rare Charitable Research Reserve. And you mentioned the Slit Barn where the barbecue, et cetera, will take place. It's a beautiful spot to kind of lace them up and get out there for a hike.
That's true. It is. It's a gorgeous spot, and we have a nice partnership with Rare as well. We have our Forest of Memories there at the Rare Charitable Research as well, where people can purchase a tree for their loved one in honor of their loved one, and that's out there at Rare as well. So it's a lovely partnership that we have with them.
How can people get involved, Kim?
The best way now is to go to our website at lessardandinnisfree.com, and there is a button right on our homepage where you can either register yourself or as a team. And then if you'd prefer, if you're not going to be available to hike, we do have virtual hike registration as well, so you can do your hike wherever you find yourself. If you're at the cottage or wherever, you can do it there and send us some photos of the walk that you did. But you can also just donate to a team. If you aren't aware of someone who is hiking, but you do just want to send in a donation, we have our Hospice Heroes team, which is in honor of all of our nurses and PSWs, so you can donate to that team as well.
Sunday, June the 8th, the annual Hike for Hospice in support of Lessard and Innisfree. We'll point folks to the website and get as many people involved as we can on the way to $130,000 fundraised this year. Kim, thanks for the work that you and the team do at Lessard and Innisfree. It really makes an impact in our community. And thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Kim Fielding joining us. Kim is a fundraising assistant with Lessard and Innisfree Hospice. Sunday, June the 8th. You can find out more information, register, make a donation at lessardandinnisfree.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, there's another piece around this Wilmot Land Assembly, and particularly the way that our regional government has handled it. That does not sit particularly well with me. I'll explain coming up right after this on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Bit of Iron Maiden and Iron Man. No, Black Sabbath. Iron Man. That's by request for Mark on this All Request Friday here on the program. I like it when Mark makes his requests because Mark likes his music heavier, kind of like I do. It was getting a little soft for me today, a little too dainty on the musical side of things, but that's okay. They are your requests that we play here on All Request Fridays. Just ahead of our Friday 4 roundtable and a discussion of the week's big stories with our weekly guests, something that struck me this week, and I wanted to bring forward because I don't like the way that this is happening, and frankly, it's not the way it should be happening. So this week, when the region announced just a couple of days ago that it had secured 550 of these 770 acres for the Wilmot Land Assembly, it made the announcement by inviting members of the media individually to a meeting where the individual reporter was given a presentation and then allowed the opportunity to ask some questions. Now, to the best of my knowledge, each of the main media outlets, our radio station, the local paper, and the local TV station were all invited, but invited separately. And in fact, as I was led to believe, it was even kept under wraps that we were invited to the meeting before we went to the meeting. But primarily, it's this idea around individually inviting reporters to a presentation after which they can individually ask questions. This is not the way it's supposed to happen. It strikes me as being very controlling of the narrative. And what should happen is that the region should hold a media conference where all of the media and its various reporters are invited. Heck, that meeting, that media conference should or could even be live streamed. So, the public, because you elect this government, right? You pay the salaries of the people that work for it, right? It should be very open and very transparent. And I have talked to my manager here at the radio station, my news manager, and offered to him, I'll lead the meeting with fellow news managers at our TV station and our newspaper to let the regional government know this is not the way it's supposed to work. The tail does not wag the dog here. So I'm not sure what strategy is being used here or who is directing that strategy at our regional government. But I'm here to be very clear about this. That's not the way it's supposed to happen. And I hope this is something that we change moving forward. Hold a media conference. Everybody can come and ask questions in a scrum. You don't pick them off individually and do one-on-ones. That's not how this works. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Friday mornings, 11 a.m. That is time for our weekly Friday for Roundtable, where we discuss the stories that made headlines through this week. And very pleased to be joined on the Roundtable this morning by Jane Mitchell, who is a former regional councillor from Waterloo. Jane, good morning.
Good morning.
Trish Mumby is here with us as well, small business consultant, and one of the speakers coming up at the inaugural Women's Expo 1 week from this Saturday with KW Oktoberfest. Way to go, Trish Mumby. Good morning.
Well, don't say way to go yet, because, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to talk about yet. I've always got something. I can come up with anything, but I think it'll be great. I'm excited that they're dedicating a whole day to women taking stages.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome for sure. And David Drew is here. He's the host of Drew's Views weekly here on the program, and he owns Negotiating Change, Government Relations, Stakeholder Engagement Strategies. Mr. Drew, good morning to you, sir.
I am giggly for today.
I'm sure you are. I had a feeling you might like these topics, so let's dive right in. Maybe not as giggly on this one as some of the later topics for David Drew, but Jane, I'll start with you on this one. Honda announces that it's pausing its plans for expansion in Alliston, Ontario. This was for expansions into the EV industry. And yet, here we are in Waterloo region, and we've got ourselves a mega site, 550 acres. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Catherine Fife said earlier, it's a gamble here in the region, what we're doing. What do you make of this?
I thought it was a really good question, putting those two things together. I think with Honda, things are just a problem because of Trump. And, it comes and it goes as far as their business. But as you know, I have never liked the putting together that land. That land is prime agricultural land, and we could be having that prime agricultural land and raising crops that we can use, so we don't have to have tariffs from California. which I have mentioned before in the past about having all our food come from California, was not a good idea. We still now have, of course, a lot from Mexico and other places as well. But yeah, no, I think it was not a good idea to begin with. So now with all this uncertainty as things go, it's even a worse idea.
That, of course, is if it's being assembled for the automotive industry and potential EV futures. Nobody is saying for sure, but we have our suspicions. Trish, what do you make of this?
I don't know. I was pretty happy to learn that all of it that has been assembled so far has been done with cash money, not expropriation. And at the end of the day, farmers are entrepreneurs and they have every right to divest of their assets. That's how you take your money off the table at the end of the day. You know, farming in Ontario, farming in Canada isn't easy. And the next generation of farms and farmers is always a question mark. Obviously, they assembled this very quickly with cash. People were interested. We do need shovel-ready land, and I don't like that either, Jane. I wish we all bought locally, but I don't think that's the reality. And as you know, I don't think we get all our food from California, but we do get it globally. And as the environment changes, as lands get flooded and we have forest fires in May, where food comes from for the whole planet is going to be changing. And we do have a lot of people in this region that need jobs. Factory jobs are great jobs. And I don't know, I feel like the economy takes care of itself. People went out with money and said, would you like this money in exchange for the land? And they said yes.
Yeah, and that's where we're at, even though the folks in Wilmot, some anyway, are saying this fight is not yet over and they remain unwilling hosts. David, I'll bring it over to you. Where are we at here?
Oh, this is just such a waste of conversation. This thing has been going on since March of last year. It feels like it's been going on since before COVID. Like this conversation is just overdone and tired. We need some place for economic development. Is this the right place? I'm not the best person to say, but the best people to say pick this place. Some other project somewhere else is being delayed, so we should slow down on our assembly for a project we haven't identified yet. There's no logic in that. When Doug Ford swallowed the bee, that was for an economic announcement. And that city got that because they were going to be ready to build for that company in 30 days. We have been sitting here for more than a year trying to just assemble the land for it. Forget about all of these other things. You know, in the CBC today or yesterday, Karen Redmond saying, yes, we're going to be out on these sites testing it, doing borehole drilling, for example. These aren't things you can do on the spur of the moment to have land ready. The question is Waterloo Region going to be a community that's ready for the future or not?
And I agree. I guess the question is, what is that future? Because there's other spots in the region, I think, that could be used down by Cambridge. And, once that farmland is gone, it's gone. And I think as far as the people giving, that they weren't expropriated, they had expropriation hung over their heads. They weren't planning on selling their land to begin with. So, that's, to say, well, they paid, they got lots of money for it. Well, that's fine. But they also lost their farms. And I just wanted to say, too, that Ann Lofer was pointing out, who is an expert on streams and is retired from the GRCA, that the region was not looking after that land and that good topsoil was going into the streams and down into the GRCA, the Grand River. And I think that's a bit concerning. So I hope that some fences have been put up since then.
So what does that have to do with the land assembly?
Well, what it has to do
the region
with the land's not looked after. It's not looked after, and it should be looked after. So it's
looked after when the farmers owned it, or since it's been purchased?
No, since it's been purchased by the region. Yeah,
well, that's got to be like an hour and a half. That can't have been very long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a good thing, but As I said,
agree. I think actually the devil's in the details, and the fact that the price has not been disclosed yet is very interesting. And really, we don't know if they got a fair price, if they felt under duress because of the threat of expropriation. All that will come out later.
Yeah, later. Yeah.
But as David said briefly a moment ago, I hear you, Jane, with the threat of expropriation hanging over your head. That can't be the most amenable way to enter into or be involved in a negotiation. But an agreement of sale was reached. Whatever the reasons were, they reached an agreement here. And the numbers I'm hearing, are about double what was originally offered when $35,000 an acre was offered. So I don't know. Take that for what it is. And I don't even know what that means. What that's, what value that presents and how that enables a landowner to find more land elsewhere to continue doing what they had been doing on this land.
But let's also remember, this isn't like a grade school test. The region's at 70%. That doesn't get them a B-. It's 100 or nothing. If they don't get the entire land assembly, then everything they've purchased so far is for naught.
Well, what they have now does qualify as a mega site. So I think that might be enough, right?
It may not have been mega enough for Honda, but Honda's out of the picture now. It's mega enough for something. And if we want to have jobs where people go into a place, earn a pension, have benefits versus a community full of work from home, whatever we all do, this is the future. Like we can't keep being upset at North Toronto for getting all these opportunities, like spreading all the way to Orangeville with development, because we are holding on to our precious farmland, which I agree is precious, but obviously it's not precious enough to the people that own it.
Well, I think I have a problem with that. I mean, the people had to sell. Let's face it, they had to sell or they'd be expropriated. If they got a good price, that's good for them. I think using Honda as an example, because you think that Honda might have come in with their EV, cars, things are put off because everything is with Trump, with the tariffs, everything is just so, who knows? One day it's 100%, another day it's 0%. And, if you're a manufacturer, I would be.
We have wonderful startups in this community that want to build.
I don't recall the businesses that are slowing down from Stellantis to Honda saying Trump. They were saying lower than anticipated demand for EVs.
Also,
they did not mention Trump, but he's being put forward as the boogeyman here, when the real boogeyman is we're trying to force electric vehicles on a market that doesn't want them.
Yeah, I find that to be an interesting branch of this too, but we have to leave it there and move on. But good conversation to start us off with Jane Mitchell, Trish Mumby, David Drew on the Friday 4 Roundtable. Speaking of the boogeyman, how about the one who's going to live in the official leader's residence, or the leader of the opposition's official residence? We're paying for it. And this guy's not even elected. Come on with your coming on. We'll talk about it with our roundtable coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Around the table with us this morning, Trish Mumby, David Drew, and Jane Mitchell. I was feigning so much rage a moment ago, I couldn't even get all the words out properly. But the bottom line is this. Stornoway, the official residence of the leader of the official opposition in Ottawa, is still inhabited by one Pierre Poilievre. But wait a minute. Just wait a minute here, Trish Mumby. Pierre Poilievre is not currently elected to the House of Commons. He may still be the leader, I guess. Have the Conservatives taken a review of that yet? He's still the leader, but he's not elected, and taxpayers fund that residence. Should he be living in it, Trish?
I don't think he is actually the leader. I think they made that creepy blonde guy what's his name, Dave?
Andrew Scheer.
Yeah. They made him. They picked another creepy guy. The temporary leader. So he's not even employed. He's an unemployed man living in a federally funded house. So in theory, yes, he should get out. He should get out immediately. Now, immediately means apparently 21 days after an election. Fine. The argument, and then I had to Google this because obviously I don't pay that much attention. The argument is, well, we'll leave him there because it costs so much. Every time officials get moved in and out of these government houses, it costs around $20,000, $20,000 to $30,000 to move them, to prepare the houses for them, to move them, all on our dime. So why bother moving him? Oh, okay. So the assumption is it's going to cost a fortune. The assumption is he's going to win again. Oh, okay. So what does a by-election cost? $500,000 to $1 million for this assumed win. There is just so much waste in this whole thing. I say move him out. I did some research. It looks like we could get about $10,000 a week on Airbnb. Let's do it. We could actually just pimp it out and make it like a be the opposition leader. Don't give Airbnb any fees. I'll run this and I'll rent it out for $15,000 a week just so people can live like they live in Ottawa. I think we could make it happen.
I like this idea. We'll generate federal tax revenue or revenue for the feds by renting out Stornoway.
I think it's really cheeky to just be like, for Andrew Scheer to say, well, he's probably going to win anyway. So you're going to spend $500,000 to make that happen. And then, so why spend the $20,000 moving him in and out? I don't like any of it. But I also don't want to be that cheap Canadian that says, why do we maintain these houses and for our leaders? Our leaders need to have a perk or two. Living in an official residence is one of them. But yeah, he should be out. I think we should stick to the rules. He should be out, and it shouldn't just be assumed he's winning.
David, I assume this is one of the topics that makes you giggly today. What say you, sir?
Well, this does look so bad. It just like I'm going to come around to why it's okay in my mind, but it looks so bad for this guy to be clinging on to his subsidized housing, given what his other beliefs are.
Well, he's never had a job in his life. He's never had to pay. Like he probably
being a member of parliament is a real job. Do not disparage our democratically elected people. He had the same job as Mike Morris.
Okay.
So anyway, though, Andrew Scheer could be living there right now because he is the leader of the official opposition. But like Trish said, that's 20-some thousand for him to be moved in and then another 20-some thousand for him to be moved out. And though we haven't mentioned yet, because I think Trish did give an amazing summary, but Pierre Poilievre has also foregone all of his severance and relocation benefits for a leaving MP. So that's like tens of thousands of dollars that he is also just left on the table. Because he has benefits coming to him as a member who lost. Even though he's planning on getting reelected again, he still could be getting his package out for the severance, his readjustment things to help him find his next job. He's not taking any of that. So as much as, it does kind of look really, really bad that he is clinging to his government subsidized housing, it's not like he's getting away with something here. Like the dollars in and the dollars out are matching up. So I don't like it, but I can't get mad about it.
That's another assumption then. I don't need all of that treatment. I don't need a severance because I'm going to have my job back in 45 minutes. So don't worry about it.
Jane, what do you make of this?
Well, I'm torn because of the costs of moving out and moving back in again. But I agree with David. It doesn't look, it's not a good look because this is the man who's always saying, let's cut, and no perks. And then he's taking all these perks. So, it just kind of, it's kind of bothersome, but certainly if he doesn't win this other by-election, which he will, he's been in Parliament for 20 years. He's going to have like a huge pension, all kinds of subsidies and everything. So at the moment, he might as well stay there if Scheer doesn't want it. He has kids, doesn't he? And they're in the middle of end of school years. So, but I'm glad that Carney is going to try and get a by-election as soon as possible because we don't want this hanging around. But good points from both Trish and David.
I love the idea that we do get ourselves kind of worked into a lather about these official residences for either the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition. I think actually we really need to do something better with Sussex Drive. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Well, I think it's because we can understand housing. Yeah. Housing is something that, we're all struggling with, but, we're not going to have a budget this year. We had that fall economic statement that was dropped last fall, and then we're going to have a fall economic statement this fall. We're not that upset about that because we can't quite grasp it. But housing, somebody who lost, keeping the perks, that's something that all of us can wrap our heads around. That's what makes it such juicy to talk about.
Absolutely. And the fact, as Trish said, it is a real job, but still, never had to pay a mortgage. It's a pretty nice thing to have when we can all relate to paying a mortgage right now. Trish Mumby, David Drew, Jane Mitchell with us on the Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. We continue on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We've talked about land assemblies and the struggling EV industry. We've talked about the official residence of Canada's Leader of the Opposition. What about the one vote margin of victory in Quebec? And who gets a $400 million gift? Anyway, surely it's a bribe. We'll continue with our Friday 4 Roundtable and those conversations coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Request Friday here on the program, as well as our Friday 4 Roundtable. I think David Drew named that tune in about 3 notes. J.D. Souther and You're Only Lonely by Request for Dean on this All Request Friday. David Drew, the owner of Negotiating Change, is with us on the Friday 4 Roundtable this morning, as is Jane Mitchell, a former regional councillor, and Trish Mumby, who's a small business consultant. David, it's just your turn in the rotation, but another of the issues that we're talking about today that I think will make you, or is making you, giggly. It's a one vote margin of victory after a recount in Terrebonne. Originally, the riding went to the Bloc. It was by 44, I believe, votes. That automatically triggers a recount, which shows the Liberals win it by 1 vote. But wait, the drama, the twist, the soap opera, a voter in Terrebonne says, I have a ballot. I mailed it in, but Elections Canada put the wrong postal code on my envelope. It was a pre-addressed envelope. It got sent back because of the incorrect postal code. She says, I voted for the Bloc, but I'm not opening this envelope unless it's in front of a judge. Oh, my. I say we just go back to the polls in Terrebonne, do it all over again. David Drew, start us off. What say you?
Well, there are also another 5 ballots that arrived at the returning office after the deadline with incorrect pre-addressed postal information. So another 5 that Elections Canada got wrong. And Elections Canada says, but we don't know that they arrived late because of our bad information. Maybe they just mailed them late too. So the other update on this is the Bloc Québécois is taking this to court. And there is a precedent for this, and it doesn't go that far back. It was actually during my time in politics, a dude whose name might be familiar, Ted Opitz. I can't remember the name of the person that he ended up in this case with, but there was a similar situation, and the judge ruled that errors in process cannot deny the right to a vote. This seems incredibly similar, so I'm expecting that we will be having a by-election.
What a mess up, though, by Elections Canada here. It's incredible. It's a pre-addressed envelope.
This is like, this is why people check my work before I send out anything important. You know what I mean? AI and your spell checker are not going to pick up the little things that you get wrong or the nuances. Always have somebody double check your work. You slide a decimal place 1 point to the left or right, it makes a big difference. You get a postal code wrong in an election, it's a big deal. And these people, I don't want to be overly simplistic, but they had one job.
Jane, what say you about the mess in Terrebonne?
Well, once again, it shows you how important it is to vote. How your one vote can mean so much, because this is by one vote and another vote. I'm interested, though, in what David said, that there's actually 6 problems, and there may be even more problems. So I'm glad that the party, Quebec, those guys.
The Bloc, yeah, the Bloc.
The block, yeah. They keep on
Well,
changing
that's
their
just
name.
it. If I
Anyway,
may,
I'm glad
if
they're
they got
taking
it,
it to court.
yeah,
Yeah, because they need to be counted, and that's important. And Elections Canada made a mistake, and they just can't sort of put it under the rug and say, "Oh, this guy won by one vote." I mean, they have to redo it, and that's final. So I hope the judge is very sympathetic to that.
David, you were very excited there for a moment.
Well, that's just it. This is not. It's not like they were hand addressing these on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
If they got it wrong for one, they got it wrong for all of them.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, this is limited to people from in riding who requested mail-in. So if you were in the army overseas or you were getting it from overseas through your embassy, that was all good because that was addressed to Ottawa. But everyone who called their elections office and said, I need a mail-in ballot, got the wrong address. There's no way it happened otherwise. It's everybody.
So
I agree. And where's the data on that? Like, it's 2025. Can somebody push a button and say, oh, we printed 7,500 of those envelopes? Where are they?
Well,
like,
I think
it's not one person for sure.
We're making Elections Canada to be the bad guy, and they are because they mucked up. But beyond that, it's not their fault that they can't fix it themselves. Literally, you have to go to court. It could be 1,000 ballots and the most plain thing in the world, but Elections Canada would still have to say because of legislation, it's out of our hands. We counted it. Yes, there was irregularities, and that's where the courts have to come in.
That's fine. No, that's not the argument. I think we're all on the same side. There needs to be another election. There needs to be a by-election there. I love the example of, I hate that this happened to them and we're going to pay for another by-election, but that one vote, like you said, Jane, the importance of voting. Yes. I put myself in that woman's shoes that received that envelope and had it come back to her, because do you remember during that Doug Ford's quickie election? Yep. I was traveling and I called into the show and said, I think I'm going to miss voting. I missed voting. I could not vote in that election because it was so tight. If it came down to one vote and because I was out of the country, I'd be on the news right now throwing a fit. Like, I'd be so mad. But that election was so tight that I physically actually couldn't possibly vote. I was away for the entire time from the day it was.
And that by-election? That by-election is going to be crazy. Like, oh my God, last one was decided by one vote. Everybody's going to be driving for miles around because, like, hey, I knocked on one door.
Yeah,
I won the election.
I think it's a beautiful example of why every single person should vote.
Yeah, but to the volunteers on a campaign, win or lose, a really tight election like that is the most energizing thing in the world.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Well, I think I might go volunteer.
And it does. It goes to show that all of the work that they do has such significance, right? Because it can be that the margins can be so slim. Rarely are they. I don't think there's ever been a one vote margin before. Can I just?
Oh, there has. Yes, there has.
A single vote?
I think so, and I think it was in Waterloo region. I can't remember where or how, but I remember that there was a one vote one. I have a feeling it was in Kitchener. And there was one. Yeah, there was one.
I remember in Waterloo with Peter Braid, it was 11 votes or some such thing at one point.
17.
17, thank you, yes.
We had a T-shirt with 17 votes on the back.
Well, it depends on what point in the night for that one, because I think it was 11 when he conceded, and then it got to 17, and then all of a sudden he bumped back up above. So it's all about, at what point are you saying what he lost by? Ended up winning by.
You mean Tilagdi lost by, and Peter Braid won.
I wonder if in this whole Terrebonne mess, I mean, obviously Elections Canada wears this and should. As David said, you've got one job, and yes, mistakes happen, but boy, oh boy, oh boy. What about Canada Post though? Like, how did some ballots make it, and this one got returned to sender? Like, come on, surely
that's the question. I think that the in-writing mail-in ballots were printed incorrectly, every single one of them, I would bet. Why someone can't tell us that is a big problem. It's not just hers.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a postal carrier, but I would like to think when I see the address of the Elections Canada returning office, I don't really need the postal code. And I know these things get sorted in different ways, but come on, look at the damn envelope.
But let's say that the postal carriers who got it to the elections returning office late we're going a little bit above and beyond.
Yes.
Because the rule of thumb is if it's not right, return to sender. Return to sender. And I can tell you that they were more vicious. We had more fights with Canada Post as a member of Parliament's office who supposedly got free postage than any consumer would, just over what the stupid little rules were over stuff like that. And the number of times we had bigwigs from Ottawa calling some shop steward in the Kitchener Depot about what was supposed to go out. When there's democracy involved, some people really do raise their noses at it. Yeah, I wonder how many non-voters deliver mail.
Interesting questions all around. David Drew, Jane Mitchell, Trish Mumby with us on the Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. A quick break. When we come back, if you got a $400 million gift and you were an elected official, would you accept it? Are you being bribed? I mean, they offer you the gift. Why wouldn't you take the gift? We'll talk about it on the Friday 4 Roundtable on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. With us around the virtual table this morning, Jane Mitchell, Trish Mumby, David Drew. One final issue for us to bandy about, and I'm sure it's another issue that makes David Drew a little giggly. Do you accept the gift? It's neither Bird nor Superman, but it is a plane. It's a $400 million plane. Does it matter where the plane came from? How about Qatar? Gifted to the President of the United States. It's going to become Air Force One. And Donald Trump thinks he'll just keep it when he's done being the president, of course. He says, well, it was my gift. Why wouldn't I take my gift? Jane, why shouldn't he take the gift?
Because he's a politician. And because when I was a politician at the region, we weren't allowed to accept more than maybe a cup with, the name of the school or the name of the organization. You weren't allowed to get gifts, and you're not allowed to get gifts federally and provincially in Canada as well. And I remember a few years ago, provincially, there was a guy and the contractor or developer gave him a fridge. And then there was another one where they did their deck, and they were just pretty much drummed right out of Parliament. And it's just so wrong, but it's Trump, and he just does whatever he wants, and nobody seems to hold him to account. But that is just absolutely unbelievable that kind of, and I'm sure there's rules in the States as there is everywhere else about what gifts you can have, and they're not big. They're not, beyond a gift basket, that's it. And but it's Trump. What can you say?
Trish, what if there's a gift basket on board the plane when it's delivered?
That's the technicality you're in. That's
exactly,
great.
Yeah.
I think it's all so ridiculous, and it's all so troubling, and it's all just part of this big package of we're watching this happen. And this is it's just one very small kind of funny distraction piece of the bigger issues that he's causing. But no, of course he shouldn't accept it. It's ridiculous. I'm actually pretty surprised he would. There's a part of his ego or personality that would say, oh, we would build a better one, a bigger one. We'd build them. Like, no, I don't need I'm the richest man on the planet, from the richest country on the planet. I don't need a gift from you. But of course, that's not true. So he's going to take it. But it's so gross. Like all the images I've seen from him on this trip, he has never smiled harder. He's having the best time. And it's just so obvious that, pay a price. You show up in my office in a tracksuit, you're going to get told in public that that's not okay. But you start lavishing those gifts and fancy trips and put out 1,000 camels, I'm in. I'm happy. I'm so, so happy. And it's just gross. America is for sale right now, and nobody cares. His power is for sale right now, and nobody cares.
David Drew.
Another giggly topic. Seriously, the best part to me is the person in the administration who signed off and saying this is all hunky-dory before this election was a lobby for Qatar. It's like, oh my gosh, it's the rats are running the ship. It's also quite weird how this is going to take several years to be outfitted with all the stuff it needs to be Air Force One-ed. And then it's going to be the end of his term. And then it goes to the library. So it's like, as a president, he might get 1 year's use out of this at the best. and then it's going to his library, because I don't think it could go to him legally. So it's going to his library, which, like, what kind of a library needs a jet?
He doesn't know what a library is. That is a big word that he hasn't Googled yet. But it doesn't matter because he'll probably outlaw that. Like, he's got enough time to mess with all kinds of the usual rules and ways things are done, let alone another presidency. Like, it's just another example of things that it's just happening to us. And of course, I have no power here. I'm just watching it, and it's just insane. It's insane. No words.
I know, and when I was looking at this as well on the internet, there was some conservative person who was saying, well, you know, one of our presidents accepted the Statue of Liberty, so that's equivalent. And I'm like, I don't think so.
But you talk about those weighing in on this, particularly in the States, Jane. If it's one good byproduct of this, it's that we've got unity in United States politics now. Republicans and Democrats are condemning this idea.
Oh, it's just...
But it's not going to go any further than that. You know what I mean? This is one of those beautiful things where they can pay lip service over it, but there's nothing they can do about it. So there's no call to action for them to be able to back up their words. Clarence Thomas, the United States Supreme Court Justice, it's worth your listeners to Google him and just see what he gets away with in terms of, I will call them bribes. He doesn't have his own private jet, but he does have one at his disposal. There is a billionaire, who sponsors him. And the worst grafts you can imagine is just taken for granted there. Like, as much as, Trump is horrid here, there's a culture there that just, thank God, does not exist here.
Well,
back to, we're worried about Poilievre taking up space in a $10,000 a week Airbnb. Like, we've got much smaller problems to deal with and talk about on the radio. Thank God.
It's incredibly wild times. So we got something. Ooh, David, did you get that cleared up? I just saw you poking your finger at your screen. I think you did.
I don't know if it was me or not, because I didn't do anything that would have fixed it.
Well, whatever it was.
I think the reason the mega crowd and Trump, even the Republicans, are speaking up about this issue is they know Qatar is problematic. I think they all know this is a slippery slope, and this man is not smart enough not to be bribed into something ridiculous. So everyone's saying their words. They're saying this isn't right, and they're positioning for something really dramatic that's going to come of this bribe.
All right, and we have really run into a little problem with the audio there, so we'll leave it on that note. But lots of fun and some giggly topics to go through with our guests today. Jane Mitchell, former regional councillor, Trish Mumby, small business consultant, and David Drew, the owner of Negotiating Change. Thanks to each of you for giving up some of your Friday for us. It's been fun. Enjoy the long weekend ahead.
You too. Bye, everybody.
The Mike Farwell Show continues on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I do believe my buddy Dan said this is a local EDM group, Kid Street with X, by request, on your All Request Friday here on the program. We just finished with our Friday for Roundtable, tradition for a Friday. This Friday also happens to be early bird draw day in the Farwell for Hire 50/50 raffle. And get this. At 11 a.m., we awarded the prize of a Kitchener Rangers VIP experience, dressing room tour, one-on-one with a Ranger player, signed Rangers jersey, and the chance to sit with Paul Fixter and I for a game in the broadcast booth. If you've listened to this station for more than a minute, you might remember the name Eric Drozd. Eric was the host of this very show before I started hosting this show. I didn't kick him out. No, he retired and moved on to another career. But Eric is the winner of our Rangers VIP experience in the 50/50 raffle. Can you believe it? Eric Drost. I think he's been to a Ranger game or two. He's maybe even been in a broadcast booth, but he won that early bird prize. Here's the thing. You got like 60 seconds, less than 60 seconds left to go to cf5050.ca. Go right now. cf5050.ca. Ticket packages start at $10. Get a ticket in the next 40 seconds, and you're in for our next early bird prize. We are about to give away $1,500 cash. It's $1,500, right? I didn't read the decimal point wrong. Oh, remember when that happened to Johnny Fever? Okay, I'm not giving away any of my own money, but the Better Business Bureau, Central Ontario, is putting up $1,500 cash. We're about to award that early bird prize in the Farwell for Hire 50/50 raffle. CF5050.ca will announce the winner right after this update from the 570 News Center. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Oh, it is so much fun. It is so much fun. I will say this publicly because I said this behind the scenes via email as well. I love giving away money, especially when it's not mine. I'm giving away other people's money, or in this case, the Better Business Bureau's money. Angela Dennis, who's the president and CEO at the Better Business Bureau of Central Ontario, joins me in studio here this afternoon as we are about to award a $1,500 cash prize, just like that, out of Angela's pocket and into your jeans in the Farwell for Hire 50/50 draw. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for stepping up like this to support what we're doing for cystic fibrosis research. What motivated you to get involved?
It's a great cause, and it aligns with BBB. You have so much community support, and you're supporting businesses within our community through this venture as well. And your passion, honestly, Mike, I've been supporting for years, and your passion and dedication behind the cause, the research for CF, is amazing. So thank you. There's been years I've seen you at the end of May, and you are exhausted. So if this helps and gets you to your goal, that's what I want to do.
Well, it's funny, Angela, that you mentioned those businesses, because I made a list the other day. I was having a conversation about this, and it's coming upwards on 24 different local businesses that have jumped behind us here. KW Custom Exteriors was right behind us last night holding an event. Not too much hard work for me. I just had to go. Well, I had to swing a golf club, but that's fine, even though I'm not very good at it. But the businesses are really getting behind me as well. Tell me a little more about the Better Business Bureau, Central Ontario, and how you help businesses in our community and consumers meet good businesses.
Yes, so it's the sign of a better business, right? We want to promote that ethical marketplace where consumers and businesses can trust each other. And it's getting the community together as well, right? And we have services free to the consumer, that we have a dispute resolution process as well. So if consumers are having that problem with a business, they can certainly come to us and help us intervene, be that middle person to get that resolution for them. And then the pre-purchase side as well. Check before you shop. See what we have, see what the rating is, see how they've handled previous consumer disputes.
I remember, so this goes back and shows how long the Better Business Bureau has been doing this kind of work in our community and beyond. When I was growing up and starting to do more things for myself, by myself, my father's advice to me was, make sure they're Better Business Bureau certified. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So there you go.
They're upholding to the standards that we set out for those businesses. So I strongly suggest to use an accredited business.
Absolutely. And while you're here, let me also extend my thanks, because I noticed that the Better Business Bureau showed up on our Kitchener Rangers coverage this year as one of our sponsors and partners. Love to hear those new names. And again, knowing what I've known of the Better Business Bureau for all of these years, great to have you on board as a partner with Kitchener Rangers too. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, and we'll continue our support where we can.
Can't wait. Okay, so that support includes $1,500 to a winner that we are about to announce. Did you bring a big novelty check? We should have got a novelty check for you. That's okay.
I did not.
It's not a requirement. Congratulations to Gordon Harris. Now, if this is the Gord Harris that I know, who's also a Kitchener Rangers partner, that would be a very funny thing. But Gordon Harris, congratulations. You have just won $1,500 cash from the Better Business Bureau, Central Ontario, as the Better Business Bureau supports our fundraising efforts. Angela, thank you again for being a partner in this 50-50 raffle.
Thank you, Mike, and keep up the great work. And congratulations, Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. Harris. We'll go with that. It's not fixed if it's the Gord that I know. How can folks get in touch with the Better Business Bureau and learn more about what you do? And if they need any support, how can they find you, Angela?
The easiest way is bbb.org, or certainly come visit our office at 151 Frederick Street, right here in Kitchener.
151 Frederick Street in Kitchener.
Suite 201.
Suite 201. 151 Frederick, Suite 201, bbb.org. I said that so many times during Kitchener Rangers games this year, so we'll say it again, bbb.org. Angela, thank you sincerely again for being a great partner. Did you watch the jackpot, by the way? It went crazy since yesterday ahead of this early bird drive.
When I was listening to you this morning, I want to say it was 76,000.
We are now over 78, pushing 79,000. And yesterday, when I left work, we were around $67,000. And I thought, if we can make it to 70,000 by tomorrow morning, well, here we are now.
We're going to hit 80.
We're going to hit 80. And on that note, I've got another offer for you, but I'll get to that in a moment. Angela Dennis, once again, thank you very much for the support.
Thanks, Mike.
Angela Dennis, President, CEO, Better Business Bureau, Central Ontario, awarding the $1,500 cash early bird prize to Gordon Harris. Congratulations, Mr. Harris. And listen, the jackpot now almost $79,000. Take home more than $39,000. Get your tickets at cf5050.ca. This is the Mike Farwell Show. Free phones Friday on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Congratulations, Eric Drozd. Congratulations for getting the hell out of this hellhole of a radio station. I'm kidding. That's me joking on a Friday afternoon, headed into a long weekend. If I'm not back Tuesday, now you'll know why. No, Eric Drozd not only used to host this show, but won the Kitchener Rangers VIP experience in our Farwell for Hire 50-50 early bird draw. Congratulations to my buddy, Eric. And congratulations, moments ago, we just made the award for a $1,500 cash prize, courtesy of the Better Business Bureau. And Angela Dennis was here to present that $1,500 to Gordon Harris. Congratulations, Mr. Harris, for winning $1,500. Congratulations, Eric, for winning the Kitchener Rangers VIP experience. If you bought a ticket and you didn't win one of those early bird prizes, don't you worry about one thing, because our Farwell for Hire 50-50 jackpot is now more than $78,000. That means the take-home prize is more than $39,000. And I've been having a lot of fun. I tell you this at the beginning of every May. It's like my favorite sport now. Yes, the Leafs in the playoffs and watching the 50-50 jackpot grow. And it's been moving a lot, up about 10 grand since yesterday. So here's what I'm thinking. Because it went up $10,000 from one day to the next day, maybe it can go up $20,000 in the blink of an eye or over the course of a long weekend. I don't know. But you may recall earlier this week, or was it last? I think it was last week. Forgive me for forgetting, but Andre called the show and he said, Mike, will you wear the jersey of the team that shall not be named if I make a donation to Farwell for Hire? I said, well, how much? Andre said, $100. I said, no way. Not a chance, no way. Andre said, 110. I said, no, I'm not. I will not do that. I will not do that. But I've reconsidered because I think Andre was onto something there, wasn't he? I mean, it is for charity. It is for a cause that is very near and dear to my heart. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do sort of what Andre suggested. I will wear on this show during this hour. So it's on Rogers TV as well. You can see it. I can post a picture online for you. I will wear during the Talkback Hour for the full hour a hat of the team that shall not be named for 100. 100,000. If we get the Farwell for Hire 50-50 jackpot to $100,000, $50,000 take home, I will wear a hat of the team that shall not be named for the entire Talkback Hour the moment the jackpot reaches 100,000. Is that a win-win? You're going to be in for a $50,000 prize, right? And you'll get to embarrass, humiliate, and mock me for wearing that ugly hat for an entire hour on the show. But I will not do it unless you get that jackpot to $100,000. That's my challenge to you. You want me to wear that ugly hat, I'll wear it. But only when the jackpot reaches $100,000. Tell a friend, cf5050.ca. Get your tickets, raise some money for cystic fibrosis research. And if you raise enough that your take-home prize is $50,000 and the jackpot's $100,000, I will wear that hat. The ugly hat of the team that shall not be named for the full Talkback Hour on the show as soon as it reaches that number. Let's go to the phones. Free Phones Friday. Kyle, good afternoon.
I'll e-transfer you $100 right now if you don't wear it. As a fan of that team that should not be named, I don't think you should be wearing it. I'll start the bidding right there.
You want to prevent me from wearing it, I see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll e-transfer you $150 right now if I have to. Not to wear that.
Why don't you want me wearing your team's hat?
Because as a true fan of that team that should not be named, no other people should be wearing them unless you're a real fan of that team that should not be named. I'd rather you wear the Boston Bruins than that team that should not be named.
Well, I guess we'll see. If the jackpot gets to 100,000 now, I'm a man of my word, Kyle, so we'll see what happens.
Right.
Okay.
Can I just say one thing quickly?
Of course.
We went to Cowbell last night for my other half's birthday, and there's two things I want to say. First of all, Cowbell, amazing. If you've never been, great food, really good beer, and great weather. We sat outside on the patio. We enjoyed it. I had a salad. She had a steak. I know it kind of sounds backwards, but it was really good. And the other thing is I want to give a shout-out to Maryhill Market. I've been there probably 6 or 7 times now for a great Italian homemade sandwich, and she's right in downtown Maryhill. Really good food. She's got cappuccinos now. She's like they've got all those small little mom and pop shops that have like the honey, and she sells a lot of local products as well. So I'd like to give a shout out to those two companies that are local businesses in the area. Really good places. If you haven't been, check them both out. So Mike, have a really good long weekend, and thanks a lot, my friend.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it. A small town shopping guide from Kyle. Cowbell and Blythe, about an hour 15 from here, and the Maryhill Market. There you go, just down the road, essentially. Grant, you're next. Free Phones Friday.
Yeah, I've been having difficulty trying to get a ticket for your fundraising thing, and I phoned a church member. He's usually pretty good with technology. What was happening? Something was popping up and saying it needs my location.
Yes, you need to put your location on, Grant, because if you're not in Ontario, you can't play. So you have to allow the site to know where you're buying from. So allow that, and then you'll be able to buy a ticket.
So how do I do that?
Well, when the screen comes up, says we need to, can you allow the site to know your location? Say yes.
Yeah, but it doesn't let you do anything. And I showed it to another, and this other friend did the same thing. And yeah, he says there's no way that I should have to go. That you should have to do that.
You do have to do that, Grant. Listen. This is not okay. I can't go through the minutiae of it. I'm sorry, my friend. I am. This is all by license under the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. Please, I know it's the Farwell for Hire 50/50, and I love you for your support. I do. I don't make the rules. Okay, you have to be in Ontario. I went through this with another gentleman over email rather extensively, and when he emailed me and said that he sent in a request for help at such and such a time PST, I'm like, oh, so you're in the Pacific time zone. That explains it. You have to be in Ontario. You have to let the site know your location so that it knows you're in Ontario. Otherwise, it won't let you buy a ticket because you have to be in Ontario. It's that simple. CF5050.ca. CF5050.ca. And something else I've learned along the way with this, if you're using the Firefox browser, it doesn't seem to like that. So please use your Google Chrome or what's the Microsoft one now? Edge. CF5050.ca. I'm sorry I can't help you troubleshoot a whole lot, and I'm sorry that there are some rules and regulations around it that our provincial government insists be there. But enough people to get the jackpot to almost $79,000 have figured this out. I know you can too, Grant. You can do it, and so can you. CF5050.ca. Free Phones Friday continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Is a little bit of Judas Priest and Hell Patrol for Kyle on this All Request Friday here on the program. How about that commercial you just heard? Eric Cuttis and TLC Pet Food putting up another $1,000 as an early bird if you get your Farwell for Hire 50/50 tickets before next Friday at noon. Come on, $1,000 cash and get the jackpot to $100,000 overall. You could take home $50,000. And I'll wear a hat of the team that shall not be named because Andre is going to make me. Hi, Andre.
Hello, Mike. Good afternoon. I have to say that I got two things. One, if you say I'm going to get right to it. If you give me a Toronto Maple Leaf hat and you pay me $100 to eat it, gravy and cheese, very easy. I'm French. And that $100, I will put it into CF. One. Two, Mike, we were talking many times about the cost of life around here and stuff like that. And we grew up a little bit here. Well, half of my life, my wife is full here.
Okay, Andre, I got to get to the news center. Can you hang on a sec?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Hang on, Andre. We'll be back about Andre living here and the cost of living. Stay with us. It's Free Phones Friday on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. My buddy Kelly wanted to hear some CanCon, Honeymoon Suite, and looking out for number one on your All Request Friday. A fellow grad of Conestoga College's BRT. Kelly, thanks for the request, and thanks for listening to the show. It's Free Phones Friday. Andre is still with us, wanted to talk about the cost of living here. Andre, what's got you feeling the pinch of the cost of living?
Well, it's hurtful. It's hurtful when you are one of those ones that cannot make it to the tower, pretty much. And I have to say in a short line that where I grew up, Mike, and near Oka, on Two Mountains, very small township, and then not in school, I grew up in St. Eustache, and it was all field pretty much. And then the guy who owned half the city, they pretty much grew it like here. When I went back there was hardly no field left. And I was sad to see that. Now I'm here, I'm seeing the same thing again. And you know what? I was telling my wife that grew up here, and I was like, you know what? You should kiss and hug Kitchener-Waterloo to become that way. Now we need to look at something that what is possible for us. And you know what? This weekend, Mike, we're going to go buy a trailer and maybe move somewhere not too far from here, but go Rangers.
All right, Andre. I'm trying to follow the bouncing ball there from cost of living to growth and how our communities have changed since we were kids. I've certainly felt that around here. Born and raised in Kitchener, this is not the small town I grew up in. But I thought that Andre was kind of alluding to that land assembly in Wilmot, and I'm not sure if he misses the empty land that we'll be thinking back on once an industrial megasite is developed in Wilmot or not. But the thing is, there are challenges that come with growth, and we are growing to 1 million people in this region, and those people are going to have jobs. That's the argument for assembling that land and creating that future industrial development. Phil, you're on Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm actually calling you from Blythe today. I'm a Kitchener guy and a BRT grad, but I'm actually calling you from Blythe. And as you know, on a sunny day, I'm looking across the street at a brewery, but because I'm working, I'm sitting on a picnic table at Tim's having a coffee with my lunch instead. So.
I love it.
Now, 2 quick points, both political. One, provincially. How is it every time a government, regardless of whether you're Liberal, NDP, you're Conservative in Ontario, you can justify running up a deficit, you'll pay it off in a few years, yet when the next election comes around, the deficit is still there, and it's everybody else's fault but yours.
Thank you.
Now,
agreed.
Locally, with what's going on with what people are calling for, are we actually seeing, is there transparency in this whole land transaction, and do we have the money for it? Are we putting money aside? If you're angry about this or very supportive, you know what? I believe October 26th is municipal elections in Ontario. So if people are, getting, angry or getting fed up and they've got answers, I believe in a year and a half from now, that's your time to put your name forward and make the changes and make things better.
Phil, love to hear from you, buddy. Thank you. A couple of BRT, Broadcasting, Radio, and Television grads, one with Kelly's request and Phil on the phone. Happy to hear from you. Great points all around. And just on... Again, Phil brought up transparency. I want to emphasize this point again. I mentioned it in the last hour, but the way the region went about sharing this latest information about the land assembly, inviting individual reporters to a presentation where those reporters could then have questions answered, it's not the way it's supposed to work, okay? I've been around this game long enough. And that, to me, smacks of the tail wagging the dog, the region trying to control a message or a narrative here. And I'm not okay with it at all. I don't know where the advice or guidance is coming from, but what should happen, especially with a duly elected government from the people who gave them the votes, this should be a wide open media conference with all media invited to answer questions in a scrum-like format, not individually. It's not the way it's supposed to work. And I'm, for one, a little chafed that it did happen this way. I hope it's something that can be corrected. Afif, you're on Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. First of all, go Maple Leafs.
Yes,
tonight.
Hopefully is right. Let's go.
Yeah. But second of all, for Grant, I know the issue. So once you deny the location on your website, it doesn't pop up again. So you have to go into the actual site's settings and then have it unlocked again. So I wish I can talk to Grant or see Grant and I can help him out. But yeah, that's the main issue why he's not able to go back on and get the location set up again.
Afif, I appreciate that. I know that you've got some expertise in that department. And Grant did say he was working with somebody from his church that is more tech savvy. I wish I could be more helpful to you, but I don't make all of the rules behind it. But the bottom line is, when you go to cf5050.ca to buy your 50/50 ticket, you will have to register your location so that the site knows where you are, because you have to be in Ontario to buy and win. cf5050.ca. Let's get that jackpot going, because if it gets to $100,000, $50,000 take home, I will wear on this show for the full Talkback Hour the hat of the team that shall not be named. But you got to get the jackpot to $100K first. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Geddy Lee, Geddy Lee, Geddy Lee. I'm listening to Rush. You say this sucks. I'm listening to Rush. You say I have officially heard enough. She don't want no Farewell to King. She don't want no Xanadu. She don't want no Caress of Steel, be it real or be it in song. She says Geddy Lee's voice is like a paper cut in between my toes.
You know, as soon as I heard that Nathan had the request, I knew we were in for something weird. That's B.A. Johnston by request on your All Request Friday, song called Geddy Lee, who might just be the greatest Canadian musical gift ever to be born. Anyway, it's your request on the All Request Friday. It's also Free Phones Friday. Back to the phones. They're busy. Greg, good afternoon.
Hi. Couple quick questions. I'll be quick. Regarding this whole land assembly, whatever, circus, I hear that they got 70% now. Do you know out of that 70%, has anybody been forced out, or is that...
No. Nobody's been forced out. They've all come to agreement.
So far, that 70% that they want, people have gone quietly and accepted whatever.
Yes.
So it hasn't come down to any expropriation yet.
No.
Okay, no, I just wondered, because they said, okay, they got that much.
Yep.
I was surprised at that number, because that's pretty big, but then, okay. Anyways, it's too late for this year's campaign, but say if I start a goal for next year's campaign, what kind of money figure do you think I'd have to, as a collective group, get you to tattoo the name of the team that shall not be named?
Not a chance. There's not. Are you kidding me?
Well, you can pick the body part it goes on. I don't care. Just,
Well, you know what? You know what body part it's going on then?
Well,
the place where my brains are, and I sit on them every day.
Okay. Well, then, name your price.
All right. I'll think about it. I'll think about it between now and next May.
Okay, because I'll send around the collection basket and see what I can do then.
All right, Greg. Thanks for that. It's getting interesting. I said if you can get the Farwell for Hire 50/50 jackpot to $100K, which means you're in that's a $50K take-home prize. Thank you very much. But if it reaches 100, I'll wear the hat of the team that shall not be named for the full Talkback Hour on this show. But you got to get the jackpot up to $100K first. Tattoo the symbol on my derriere? I don't know about that. Rory, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Hey, on a Friday afternoon, who can complain?
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to I'm a big online auction guy, Mike, and I was happy to see you have it again this year. When does it start?
You know what? It just did. I was focused on the early birds for the 50/50 today, but we have got an online auction that just launched last evening. So check out the Farwell for Hire Facebook page. I'll get the link posted there for you. Lots of great stuff.
You're my man. I got something to do over the long weekend now.
Attaboy.
I wanted to give you a call on several topics, but I certainly want to take a moment to declare that transparency is no longer existent in Waterloo Region, Mike. We take a look at a couple of examples most recently. Both the City of Kitchener and the region was given a grade of D on their budget transparency. And just to give you a bit of insight, the region of Waterloo in 2021 was given a B-. So in a matter of a couple of years, they've continued to close their books on transparency. You take a look at the land grab recently getting a dishonorable mention for its lack of accountability and still not having a proper public meeting. And to your point, picking and choosing who gets the information. In Wilmot, of course, there were other transparency issues around the gravel pit applications that were recently put forth within the township. So, the question begs, what do we need to do in order to get the transparency we deserve, not only as citizens, but as taxpayers, so that we can hold our regional governments accountable?
Rory, it's a great question, and I appreciate it. I think one of the things that we're struggling with right now is experience and the lack thereof, both on the elected side and the unelected side. And that's where I firmly believe it's up to people like Rory and I and others who have deeper experience to kind of show them the way. This is how we act transparently. This is how we interact with the media. We don't wag the dog. The media is the dog, and they get to have some bite and ask some questions. And anyway, so I think there's a part of a responsibility on us, but your point is well taken as to where has this gone in just a couple of years. Pat, you're on Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike, and how are you today?
I'm excellent, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Further to what Grant was saying about difficulties buying the 50/50 tickets, I'm blind, and I called you a couple of weeks ago to see if there was any other way of buying them other than online.
There is not, no.
Yes, I got my son to help me.
Good.
It's incredibly difficult to do because he cited my phone and computer are set up for a blind person. Suggestion for next year for those of us who are disabled or for those who simply can't use a computer, how about finding another way, like telephone, that we can buy tickets?
I understand, Pat. I get you, and I wish I could make it like I wish I could walk and right to you and sell you a ticket. And I'm sorry for the frustration. I wish your son would have been able to help out. But again, these are rules that go beyond me, and the electronic way certainly makes it easier to hand out prizes and keep track of everybody who bought a ticket. Terry, Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Listening to your Ford panel there earlier, someone mentioned that land assembly thing was much ado about nothing, or it's overdone, I think, or it's been going on for a year and a half. The thing that crosses my mind is it's progress. I mean, I'm sure where you live right now, your house was probably a cornfield at one time, because I know mine was.
Absolutely mine was. I remember the elderly gentleman on the other side of the main street that intersects my neighborhood from his, and he said when his house was built, there was nothing but field out his front window. And now there are 2 subdivisions, mine of which is one.
Exactly. That's my point, because I bought a new home where I live out here in Woodstock, and because it wasn't built yet when I bought it, and I know it was a cornfield because I walked on the road behind it and I grabbed some corn. And another thing about this Pierre Poilievre thing, I'm sure he's only been the leader of the opposition for a couple of years, so he must have lived somewhere in the Ottawa area, didn't he? He must have a house there somewhere.
Maybe. I guess, possibly.
Unless he lived in a tent in the woods. But I'm just saying, he still officially is the leader of the opposition until his party says he can't be, whether he's elected or not. So I think they should keep him there. Like one of the panel said that you can't keep spending money, moving one guy out, moving the next guy, because he's going to win that by-election anyway.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, Mike, have a good weekend.
Thanks, Terry. You too. These are interesting times politically, municipally, with land assemblies, etc., and interesting times on Free Phones Friday, which continue here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I was all right for a while. I could smile for a while. But I saw you last night. You held my hand so tight as you stopped to say hello. Oh, you wish me well. You couldn't tell that I'd been crying.
I see what you did there, Steve G. Dedicating that song to me on All Request Friday. You think I'm going to be crying after that Leafs game tonight, huh? Huh? Is that what you think, Steve? We shall see, my friend. We shall see. Free Phones Friday continues. Mike, good afternoon.
Mikey.
Michael.
Do not lower yourself to that
Do not lower yourself. You get 5 or 10 grand. You can't put that hat on, Mike.
100K in the jackpot, Mikey. I got to do it. It's for my charity, buddy.
I know, but you're lowering yourself, Mikey. You're going to feel really sick that day. You know that, eh?
I know, but I'm willing to do it for charity, bud.
I hear you. Go Leafs, go, bud.
Go Leafs, go, Mikey. Good to hear from you, bud. We'll squeeze in one more. Bill, you get the last word on free phones.
Hey, Mike, I'm celebrating today, and I wanted to know if you'd join me.
I like to celebrate.
It's Leaf Elimination Day.
I do not want to join you in that, sir. How do you know it's Leaf Elimination Day?
I just have a feeling.
Settle down.
Hey, you know what? I'm a big Montreal fan, as you know.
Well, I think you just said something you're not supposed to say. That's what you get, pal. I got my index finger, and I'm not afraid to use it. Click, gone. You can be a fan of that other team if you want. It shall not be named on this show. However, in the interests of charity, if our 50-50 jackpot gets to $100,000, that'll be a $50,000 take-home. I will put on the hat of that team that shall not be named and wear it for the entire Talkback Hour. Congratulations to Eric Drozd, who won our Kitchener Rangers VIP experience on the Farwell for Hire early bird draw earlier today. Congratulations to Gordon Harris, who won $1,500 cash in an early bird prize from Better Business Bureau earlier today. You can still get your tickets, get in on the jackpot, get in on the fun, help us raise money for cystic fibrosis research. Go to cf5050.ca. Enjoy the long weekend. I'll be back Tuesday morning at 9. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.